Thus begins once again my 7-month end of season and off season campaign to try to get you all to switch over to Roto leagues. I know it might not work. In fact, I know it almost definitely won't work on a vast majority of you. But if I can even peel off 5% of my wonderful, lovely listeners and viewers, whether you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or watching live on YouTube, to come on over and join me in the Roto universe, then it's a job well done by me. I know. You know what I haven't done in a while, actually? I haven't started a show by saying, let me talk to you for a minute about. So today we're doing it. Let me talk to you for a minute about playoff leagues and how much I detest them with every fiber of my being. I hate them. I hate them so much. We work so hard all season long to have the best pickups and the best draft picks and great streaming ideas and rest of season plays and injury substitutions and attacking different categories. And then it can all go up in flames on a wet spot. That's it. That's all it takes. So let me talk to you for a minute about head-to-head playoff leagues. I hate them, and I think you all should switch to Roto. And here's why. I get this question a lot when I put it out there into the basketball universe. Dan, why do you keep ranting and raving about Roto? What is it about? Why do you keep telling us to switch over? Because I've tried it and I found it boring. You know what I find boring? I find it boring that every year on April 15th, I look back at the season because we do our lessons learned episodes of the off season. And I go through some of my lessons. Don't draft injured players. We do that one every single year. We'll do it again this year for anybody that hadn't heard it before. And I look at my head-to-head team to try to find what the lessons learned were. And I'll say, little tweak. I think I need to be more careful with drafting players on obvious tanking teams. So like the Spurs would have been one where I ended up with one or two Spurs. You guys knew I liked Keldon Johnson this year. It didn't pan out because he sucked, but also now he's getting rest days. But it always comes back to the same damn thing, which is, had a good team, but 5 guys got hurt during one playoff week, and that was just the end of it. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe I got lucky one year, and I played against a team that had 5 guys go down in a playoff week. I will never forget, and I feel like this happens to a lot of us, anyone that's ever had Kyle Lowry on a head-to-head playoff league never forgets. You never forget the guys that kill you. But then, like with Lowry, it's always been the same thing. He always plays himself into an injury because his idiot coaches don't get him out of the game fast enough, and then he ends up with whatever nagging injury that knocks him out come fantasy playoff time. And here we are again, by the way, on the Lowry front, but he got knocked out much sooner. Not the point. Point is, I've talked about this on the show before. It was a couple seasons back where I had an absolute unbeatable juggernaut of a head-to-head. It's kind of a points league team. It's the league I've talked about sometimes where it's 11 cat, so it's a volume league. And I was just steamrolling. I mean, no one was going to touch me. And on top of everything else, I'm fairly certain that I had a bye week in the playoffs. So I had set myself up. I had made all my moves the week before my playoffs began to maximize games played. And, I rolled into the week, and Monday was fine. I think I lost someone. I feel like maybe it was Bruce Brown. Is that a possibility? So I replaced him on Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, Trae Young turned his ankle. He'd been unbelievably durable the whole year. I think he'd missed like 3 games the first 5 months of the season. And then, bam-o. Turned little baby ankle. Floater landed on somebody's foot. Trae Young out for 1 week. Exactly 1 week. He would have been back by the very next week. Zach LaVine, I think he went into protocols around that time. So this was during COVID. This was either wouldn't have been the first year. It would have been maybe 2021. Zach LaVine out. COVID protocols. He's out for a week. Let's see. What else happened? Then I had like So Trey, I was able to put in IL. I wasn't going to drop Levine, so I was going to take a couple zeros there. But I had already replaced Bruce Brown, and then there was someone else on my team that I had planned on replacing because their schedule got lighter after Tuesday. So I'd use like 2 moves by Wednesday. I'm fine. 2 of my key guys are out. I've already used 2 moves, and then all of a sudden, the whole thing came apart. 3 guys on my team all got hurt on Wednesday, and I literally didn't even have enough roster moves to replace them. And my juggernaut team that was running away with the league, just done on an ankle tweak, a COVID protocol, and 3 fringy guys all getting hurt at the same time. And the guy that I picked up, I'm fairly certain to replace Bruce Brown that year, also got hurt. I had 6 small injuries in the same week. Done. And then people are like, oh, well, fantasy parallels reality. No, that's actually not true. That's actually not true. Because guess what? You know whose season didn't end when Trae Young went into protocols? The Hawks. Or sorry, Trae Young tweaked his ankle. The Hawks. They were fine. They went like 1-2 in the games he was out, and then they continued on into a playoff run. Would he have played on that sore ankle if it was his actual postseason? Yeah, he would have. And that's the thing when people are like, oh, well, this, fantasy parallels reality. No, it doesn't. Because these are our playoffs, and it's their inconsequential regular season week. They're playing the long game during our short game. It does not parallel. We care way more about games on March 9th than they do. That's an old adage in sports betting. If you care more about the outcome of a ball game than the players involved, it's a bad bet. And that's how I feel about playoff head-to-head leagues. It's a bad bet. We care so much more about a game with 15, 20 games left in the regular season. The players don't give a crap about this game more than any other. So they're going to have, oh, my back is a little bit sore. I'm going to take this one off. I'll play 2 out of my 3 games this week. But if it was their playoffs, they'd have played through that. So it's not their playoffs, but it is ours. So no, reality does not parallel fantasy in this case. And then people are like, oh, well, if you have a couple injuries on your team should lose. What? Why? Based on this 1 week? If I had all of those guys go out for me in January instead of March, you know what would have happened? I would have lost 1 week during my regular season, 7-2 or something like that. And then I would have been fine the rest of the year. It should not matter specifically when a player turns an ankle in your league. This is why you should come to Roto. I know you guys are going to say, Dan, I'm going to miss trash talking with my buddies. You know what? Trash talk with your buddies in Roto if you're blitzing them. You know what the ultimate trash talk is? A trophy. Beating some friend of yours from the office 5-4 on February 4th or whatever. That's not good trash talk. Oh, I really got you right before the trade deadline, Tom. Oh, man. John, you really got me. Right after Christmas, you really got me. You know when you can talk trash? At the end of your Roto League when you were like, I had the best team all season long. You guys all suck. You guys want to come take my money? Come take my money next year. And then you don't have to worry about somebody coming in with this garbage team that doesn't belong in the same stratosphere as your well-built, well-oiled machine in the playoffs and knocking you off. Because 3 of your key guys all had tiny little baby 2-game injuries at the same time. A 2-game injury wrecking an entire fantasy season. That doesn't happen in Roto. A long-term injury is terrible in both, as it should be. If you have someone on your team who gets hurt and misses 2 months, it's going to dramatically impact your fantasy basketball team. If you have someone on your team that gets hurt and misses 2 games in December, in both formats, it doesn't impact your team all that much. But if you have someone on your team that slips on a wet spot on March 8th or gets hit in the thigh or turns an ankle or lands on a foot or someone's underneath them on a three-pointer in early March and they have to miss a week or however long it's going to be, you know what format that doesn't hurt you that much? Roto. Because Roto is all about the aggregate total. Kevin Durant's not a great example because he had a sprained MCL. He already missed 8 weeks this year. That's been painful on both sides, Roto or head-to-head. Same with Brandon Ingram. He's been insufferable in all formats right now. But Luka's actually been relatively healthy this year. So it's kind of dumb. Not kind of. It's extremely dumb that Luka Doncic, who's played in 57 of his team's ball games this year, is now going to be out for whatever it is, a week with a thigh issue. And if you're in head-to-head, it ends your season. If you're in Roto, you can be like, what a shame. Well, at least I got 57 games out of him first, and I'll get whatever he does when he comes back. Because an injury, when an injury happens, shouldn't really matter. It shouldn't. That's dumb luck. Everybody gets hurt during a season. You can't predict when a guy's going to turn their ankle. You can try to predict whether a player is going to miss a very large number or a much smaller number of games. Absolutely. That's important for both formats. Total number of games played is critical in both formats. But this whole, we just have to get lucky and our tweaked ankles have to come in January and not in March thing with head-to-head is so dumb. It's so dumb. So come join me in Roto next year. We're all going to have a real blast together when we take other people's money and we don't have to sweat it so much. And there's so much strategy, by the way. Everybody's like, oh, Roto, you just set it and forget it. No, not at all. Every little tiny move you make matters because you're trying to squeeze out ROI and rebounds and blocks, whatever it is, because you're looking at this giant board of everybody's numbers and thinking, where can I actually get a couple of extra points here? Get over the hump. I love trash talking buddies after I take their money. You know what I don't love? Trash talking buddies after a random week in the middle of December. All right, let's talk about yesterday's card. Angry though I may be on it. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Fantasy NBA Today. It's a Sports Ethos presentation. I'm your host, Dan Bespris. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, DanBesbris. We've got our two-parter today. As usual, we'll be breaking down yesterday's results from Wednesday, kind of a medium Wednesday. We'll also take a look at the streaming board today. That'll be available in visual form to our pals watching live over on the YouTube side. I hope that everybody on the recorded pod side is thinking at least about giving our YouTube channel a chance. That's youtube.com/sportsethos. Sports, you know how to spell that. ETHOS, Sports Ethos over at YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, please drop a like on the show. And please subscribe to our YouTube page as I continue to try to do this type of BS every damn day. We're having a good time while we're doing it. Let's break down some games here. I had a long show opening rant, so we'll move a little quicker on the card. Atlanta beat Washington 122-120. Big fantasy notes on this ball game. John Collins got some of his minutes back from Sadiq Bey in this one. Probably going to be a timeshare. Collins is still the guy between those two that I would prefer to have. They are each, and you can actually roll a couple other names into this mix as well. DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, even Okongwu to a certain degree. These guys are probably all falling into the schedule stream bucket right now, which for those uninitiated, schedule stream is a guy you're playing on the head-to-head side when they have an enviable schedule coming up, meaning a lot of games in not that many days, and what we talk about during the second half of each of our shows right now. Of all of those guys, which ones do I think have the best shot at Roto value the rest of the way? Okongwu and Collins. Okongwu and Collins, I would say probably in that order, actually, if you're looking at them and thinking, can they sustain some sort of games cap measure? Over on the Washington side, Kristaps. It's good to have Kristaps these days. It's good to have Kristaps almost any day this year. He's number 15, and he's played in 56 ball games this season. Pretty amazing stuff. Number 11 by totals. One of the biggest wins in fantasy. That's fun, but that's all there is to that one. Monte Morris came back, played 17 minutes off the bench. He and DeLon Wright are probably going to be sparring for minutes down the stretch, but I still like DeLon regardless. He's been amazing. He's the leader in steals in the NBA, and he got 3 more of them yesterday. And then in terms of the other guys on the Wizards, so Daniel Gafford, Denny Avdia, Corey Kispert, those guys are all scheduled streams right now too. Gafford, by the way, left and returned to this game twice with weird little nagging injuries, and frankly, that's enough reason for me to not want him as a rest of season play and call him a schedule stream because he's just like not healthy enough to stay in every ball game right now. There's never any notes on the Cleveland Cavaliers, so we can just jump right over them. I know Isaac Okoro had a slightly better ball game, but I think we've learned by March that doesn't really matter. Victor Oladipo, 5 turnovers, but you have to like the 32 minutes for him. So Oladipo might actually be slightly above a schedule stream, or you could potentially just call him the world's finest schedule stream right now. Kyle Lowry apparently is getting close. Gabe Vincent isn't even really doing anything right now anyway, so who cares? Kevin Love came back from his bruised rib. He played 21 minutes. Caleb Martin played 30. Those two guys are just bouncing back and forth. Kevin Love is a schedule stream. Caleb Martin is kind of, sort of like a bad one. Strus is also a bad one. Tyler Hero was a little bit better, I guess, but, who cares? All right, let's get into the big news. Big news number 1 and 2. New Orleans lost Brandon Ingram in the second quarter, or early third? Early third. Dallas lost Luka a little bit later in said third quarter. Luka Doncic dealing with a thigh strain. Brandon Ingram dealing with an ankle sprain. Terrific. Sorry about your head-to-head teams if you have any of these guys on them, because all of a sudden your team just sort of goes up in smoke all at once. And if you have more than one of them, it's end of days for you. I will say on the Dallas side, look, the Tim Hardaway Jr., who we talked about yesterday, he's on one of his little hot runs right now, and you can play him while he's this hot. But just be aware that we know how this goes for Timmy. When Hardaway's hot, he's real hot. 5, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-pointers a game. He's even getting steals right now, which is all over the moon about all this stuff. But all of a sudden, it's just going to come apart on you. So just be ready. If you stream Hardaway, and you probably should while Luka's out, just know the wheels come off quick, and it's too late to catch it. You'll just start falling. Christian Wood is actually a big winner here. He played 26 minutes in this ball game. So already you got to see immediately, I know Maxi Kleber was sitting this one out, but immediately you saw the impact of not having Luka, which was, look, we're going to need to get somebody else in there that can handle themselves on offense. That's a creator besides Kyrie Irving that can be a part of a pick and roll. Just give the team more offensive opportunities. And so for however long Luka's out, Christian Wood probably moves back up from where he had been recently, which was, by the way, not very good. I don't think I even looked it up because I thought it was going to be too ugly, and it is. He's been outside the top 160 over the last just under a month or so, basically since Dallas got Kyrie Irving and then started to get a little bit healthy. His minutes probably trend up from 21, 22 to, I would think, maybe 25, 26 while Luka's out, and that probably pushes him back into the 100 range. So Wood becomes startable again. And then on the New Orleans side, we don't really know how bad it is for Ingram. We do know that he is going to force himself through this as much as he can. They're going to be somewhat cautious, but there sort of just isn't space now for these teams that are hanging on by a thread to be cautious at all. Pels are tied with the Lakers for the final 2 play-in spots. They host the Thunder on Saturday, so Ingram does have a couple of days off, which I guess is good news, but they go Saturday, Sunday, back-to-back, hosting the Thunder, hosting the Blazers, hosting the Lakers early next week. They have these, what I would consider basically must-win games for all of the teams involved in that. And if Ingram has any shot of playing, he's going to try to play in that ball game. So at least on the Ingram front, I don't think I would panic. I bet we see him for one of those 2 games over the weekend, but maybe I'm being overly optimistic here. We haven't really gotten a full report on how bad it is. So cross your fingers. In the meantime, other stuff going on here. Ingram being down means way more shots for CJ McCollum, who took 22 of them in yesterday's ball game. Trey Murphy kept his starting job despite Josh Richardson coming back. I would assume Richardson sees more playing time if Ingram does miss any ball games here. And they'll slide Trey Murphy and Herb Jones up from shooting guard small forward to small forward power and slot Richardson in as the shooting guard. But I guess we'll see on that front. Herb Jones has been a hold for a long time. He's been a top 100 asset basically while anybody's been out for that team, and someone's been out for that team for the entire season. I think the Pelicans were healthy for 4 games in November, and that's it, which is kind of insane because then Ingram was out forever, and then Zion's been out forever. So Trey's a stream, easy call. Herb is a play. CJ, duh. And then I think probably you get down to Richardson if Ingram does miss any time. Jonas Valanciunas was absolutely horrible in this ballgame. He had 5 turnovers in 7 minutes, and then they just pulled the plug on it and went smaller. Jackson Hayes got a bunch of run at center. Willie Hernangomez saw 15 minutes. I think in general here you can roll with Valanciunas when there's no Larry Nance. And as awful as this game was, and it truly was one of the worst fantasy games I've ever seen, JV will be better in the next one. Boston blew out the Trailblazers. Not a whole lot to take away from this one. I think you can, Matisse Thybulle only playing 20 minutes is somewhat notable. I would actually demote Thybulle to a schedule stream. That's the move I would make from this Blazers game. Cam Reddish actually was still decent, so keep rolling with him until we hear from Anthony Simons. Over on the Boston side, no Time Lord. Big Al, they'll try to keep his minutes down if they're in a blowout. He's been really, really good, actually. End of season Al Horford, don't forget. He ratchets it up when he can start to smell the finish line. And I think he feels like Boston wants to try to catch Milwaukee now. So I would expect some decent games for Big Al here coming up down the stretch. Not a good schedule for Boston the rest of this week. So that's unfortunate. Derek White had a big ball game. And, he'll kind of come and go a little bit. Malcolm Brogdon didn't, so that's why you got more Derek White, but no big fantasy takeaways for the Celtics. Chicago came in and just pantsed Denver. This is a pretty weird one. Jokic, for the first time since November, shot under 50% for a ball game. Not by much, mind you. What did he go? 7 for 16, so he was 1 field goal make away, but he went 1 for 4 at the free throw line, 5 turnovers. This is a very ugly game certainly by Jokic standards. KCP had 3 steals, and he was basically the only nugget to survive this slaughtering. It was ugly from start to finish. You never see Denver play a game like this. They were just awful. Aaron Gordon, 4 for 9 at the free throw line. Yikes. I don't think you can say it's any one thing that Chicago did. It just seemed like Denver was drunk. Patrick Williams had a nice ball game, but he has not been able to keep that up for more than 2 or 3 games in a row at any point this year. So just kind of keep shuffling along. This is a nothing of a ball game. And then, of course, Phoenix. Kevin Durant. I'm so upset about this Kevin Durant thing. Mostly because it means that there's just no way that I can win my 30 deep team anymore. I would argue that I probably had the second best team in 30 deep this year, and I held on to a top 2 seed despite missing KD for 8 weeks. And here he came around, and he was getting his bearings last week during my bye, and I was all excited here, even in a 2-gamer. And now I'm going to get a 0 out of him. And now there's a report that the Suns are worried that KD might be dealing actually with a grade 2, which would probably keep him out the rest of the regular season. But we don't know anything yet this morning, so I don't want to plant a bunch of terrifying rumors right now. But he left the arena in a walking boot. So he ain't playing in their next ball game unless some sort of miracle happens. I would assume KD's out for at least 1 to 2 weeks. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, he's an older dude, and this type of stuff happens, but this is pretty fluky. What a pain. Well, if you're looking for any kind of small win in all of this, it's not Terrence Ross. He came in, he had one of his crazy heater games. It would be Josh Okogie, because we saw him actually post really nice lines before KD showed up. And I know he didn't really do it in this one. They didn't need him to. Devin Booker was way too hot, and so it didn't matter. But I would assume that Josh Okogie now is a pickup for at least the next 1 to 2 weeks in pretty much any format. So get your Okogie streams rolling. Otherwise, luckily Phoenix was shooting the ball so damn well that most of their main guys were able to put up fantasy numbers before this game got out of hand. And Chris Paul, actually, I would argue, this might have been Chris Paul's best game of the year. 18 points, blow the roof off the building, but 4 boards, 9 assists, 4 steals, 4 threes, 6 out of 8 shooting, made both of his free throws. It's been a weird year for percentages for Chris Paul. And then he's taken a little bit of a back seat while they've been working in Kevin Durant. But he's still number 38, which is right around his ADP on a per-game basis. Is there a chance still for him to get the percentages up where they have been throughout his entire career? Probably not. But anyway, it was fun for a night. What about OKC? Well, they rested Shea, so that mucked things up for this ball game. Jalen Williams is dealing with that sprained wrist, and he missed both halves of their... Was this a back-to-back, or was this an every other day? I guess it doesn't really matter. He's missed their last 2 ball games. It was a back-to-back. And that makes me a little bit nervous, because when he missed the first one, I think we all looked at it like, well, are they just being super careful? But now I feel like we can safely say he is actually hurt a little bit. No, you're not adding Lindy Waters, and we got hot in this 1 ball game. No, you're not adding Trey Mann. This was a blowout. They went to the roulette wheel in OKC and just kind of punted early. Let's just assume that Shea is back for at least one half of their upcoming back-to-back. And typically, you can roll Isaiah Joe when Shea sits. It's just that he went 1 for 8 shooting, and the game was over before anybody could do anything in the second half, basically. And so you got a whole lot of crap. Clippers beat the Raptors 108-100. At least nobody got hurt in this ball game, although Freddie VanVleet unloaded on the officials after the ball game. He will be fined. I don't think they would do more than that for comments in a post-game presser, but, there you go. For the Raptors, it shouldn't be too surprising that Jakob Poeltl has slowed down a little bit. He was a first-rounder for his first 5 or 6 games after joining the Raptors. He's going to be good down the stretch. His minutes are there, but he's not going to average like 15 and 12 with 5 defensive stats per ball game. That's just, nobody does that. Not even JJJ does that. I would expect, frankly, games more like this one from Jakob, which is still good. Nearly a double-double with a couple of defensive stats. And he didn't go to the free throw line, which is a small win in an array of small wins on the Jakob Poeltl front. So just enjoy what I think is probably going to be more like top 50-ish for Jakob the rest of the way. Not top 12. Chris Boucher had a decent game off the bench, but you can't trust that in 15 minutes. Gary Trent is very hit or miss. And if he's missed, they're just not going to play him as much. And he went 2 for 11 in this ball game, so he didn't get played as much. You just need him to be hot. Freddie VanVleet had been on a pretty bit, like a nice little 2-3 game heater coming into this one. Shot wasn't dropping as much. Still got his assists and his steals. If you're a Lakers fan, you're hoping that maybe he does cool off a tad, but I don't know. Feels like he's going to be mad after this last one. Why would you say that, Dan? Oh, boy. Kawhi Leonard, another big ball game for Kawhi. He's been pretty unbelievable after what was, I don't think we can sugarcoat it, an absolute disaster of a start to the season. He basically missed the first 2 months. But over the last you call it about 3 months, 30 games or so, he's been a top 5 fantasy play. And over the last 25 games for Kawhi, which is about 2 months worth, he's number 2 behind Dame. Dame's been number 1 over that stretch. Then Kawhi, Shea, Embiid, Jokic, Kyrie, Porzingis. This is per game, by the way, over the last 2 months. That's your top 7. I know, a couple of surprising names in there. Well, really, Porzingis is probably your surprising name in there. The other ones, all those other guys have kind of been there. And then, Shea this year. But, yeah, Kawhi's been unreal for about 2.5 months now. And if he can do it for 1 more month, he probably salvages his season. He's number 14 per game overall this year. Lots of missed games early in the season, but guess what? He's up to number 54 by totals now. That's crazy to think about, but it's real. Ivica Zubac continues to hold off Mason Plumlee. It feels like he probably will. If it hasn't happened yet, I don't think he's going to lose that gig. PG wasn't as good in this ball game, but you're not going to worry too much about him. Russ is the other guy you're keeping an eye on. He played just 23 minutes here. He was a plus 12, which is the best on the team. Still, it feels like some of that was good fortune, in addition to the Clippers using him in kind of a different role, which is as the screener and short roll man. So now he's going to be expected to basically play like a power forward spot in that offense, because he's not dangerous as a pick and pop guy. But for other teams, they're going to have to know now that if they go try to trap whoever it might have been, Kawhi or PG, typically the other guy ball handler there, then Russ is going to roll at least part of the way to the rim. I just, like, you can pretty much abandon Russ if he's beyond the three-point line. So I don't know why you don't play a different coverage there. It feels like maybe Toronto missed an opportunity to change things up, but who knows? Maybe they did change things up part way when I wasn't watching, and that's why Russ didn't play later. Anyway, Russ didn't play later. That's the point. Terrence Mann played the final 16 consecutive minutes of this ball game and was running on fumes by the end of it. And Russ didn't play in the fourth quarter, which, I mean, I think the Clippers kind of figured out you probably shouldn't play Russ in the fourth quarter unless you are trying to catch lightning in a bottle. They were up, so there was no reason to try to catch lightning. They already had it in the bottle. All they needed to do was not let the lid off. I had a great metaphor going, and then I stumbled over my words. What are you going to do, man? Hey, mid-show reminder that we got a couple of things going on at Sports Ethos that you guys all need to be aware of. Number one, Ethos Fantasy BB is our baseball feed. It is growing like a weed right now. Ethos Fantasy BB is the baseball feed. I will post that in our YouTube chat so you guys can just click that link or whatever the simplest way is to check out the baseball feed. And why should you do it? Well, because we've got the baseball draft guide available in our Fantasy Pass right now. It's just $5.99 per month. It also includes our NBA Premium, so that'll take you here 1 month from today, actually. It's a perfect time to get it because you'll get exactly 1 month of the Fantasy Pass, which will take you to the final day of the NBA regular season. That'll give you access to our premium Discord, our pickups of the night, which, by the way, the premium Discord has a 24/7 pro chat going with our Ethos Fantasy Pros. Then you'd also get the baseball draft guide. You'd also get the baseball in-season premium because that would actually run. Baseball starts, March 29th, something like that. So you'd actually get a week and a half of in-season baseball content as well. And if you love it, just let it ride. Because if you let it ride, you get baseball all season long, and you get the Brewski 150 next year early. That's only available to people who leave their Fantasy Pass on during the basketball offseason. It's a special +5 offer that we carry around here. That's all over at sportsethos.com. Click on the premium tab, and I'm going to try to get that link available for the live YouTube viewers as well. You click on the premium tab, choose Get Premium, and make sure you're choosing the Fantasy Pass at the resultant page. It's the $5.99 a month deal. There is no monthly lock. But if you get it now during baseball season, the way that there is during NBA draft guide season, there's the link I put up on the page here for YouTubers. But everybody else in the chat, you can just click on it. $5.99 a month. Please go get that. It really does help power our locomotive. And if you've got the Fantasy Pass already for basketball, it's already in there. Congrats. You already got it. I love it. The other thing I wanted to mention over at Sports Ethos is that we are recruiting. We continue to recruit. We have so many new podcasts in the works right now. It's actually really sweet how fast our pod division is growing, which is my baby. I love this pod division. David Williams, host of our Grizzlies pod, has been an unbelievable help as the pod division manager to grow it and teach everybody kind of how to do this thing. It's amazing. I'm so thrilled about all of this stuff. So thank you to everybody that's reached out already. And if you haven't, you could do so by hitting me up on Twitter at Dan Bespris. I'm going to make that text bigger for the YouTubers at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Go find me over on social media. Hit me up if you want to be a part of what we're doing over here at Sports Ethos. And then, of course, like and subscribe if you're watching already. But if you're not, please do check us out on youtube.com/sportsethos. Today, YouTubers, this is where I need to throw a quick tweet out into the ether here that we're switching over to taking a look at the schedule now. But what I would also remind you guys of is if you're here and you're watching, you might be on a slight delay. You might be caught up. I don't know. Make sure to throw your questions in the chat room. We're going to be getting to those really soon here. I got about 10 minutes of schedule analysis to do, and then we're going to do everything. You know, we did the first 5 questions at the beginning of the show, but we're going to hit every other question here that comes afterwards in a lightning round. So make sure to get yours in. The sooner you get it in, the sooner you'll get it answered. And now the tweet goes out. And now we can regain control here. Okay, so that's phase 1 of the show complete, which is the look back at everything that happened yesterday and whatever that might mean for you guys going forward. Now it's time for phase 2, which is schedule stream time. And again, anybody that's watching live, you can actually see what I'm doing on the schedule stream. Everybody else, I will do my best to try to paint a picture for you guys as we work our way through it. It is now Thursday. And as we talked about earlier in the week, this is when you want to start cashing in some of the moves that we were judicious about saving earlier in the week. And the reason for that is this is the last opportunity you will have to get players that still have 3 games left this week. Now, if you're down to 1 move left on the week, I don't think you can use it yet. I don't think you can use it yet because there's still a really good chance, unfortunately, a higher than 0, probably higher than 50% chance that someone on your team is going to get hurt between today and the end of the week. And frankly, you probably had someone on your team get hurt last week. Or yesterday, I should say, not last week. So you need to save at least 1 move for, I would say, Saturday, because there are a couple teams that have a back-to-back over the weekend. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, actually, where you can cash in those moves, or 1 move at that point, to abandon ship on an injured player or abandon ship on a team that doesn't play over the weekend, which I believe is Minnesota and Toronto. Neither one of them goes Saturday or Sunday. So let's say you have 2 or more moves left this week. If you have all 4 of your moves, you need to start using them because you're officially now kind of in use it or lose it territory on schedule stream. 3, I would say use at least 1 today, possibly 2. I might try to get down to 1 move left after today. 1 move left for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the reason I say that again is because every schedule play move you make, I want you guys to be trying to find a way to get 2 extra games played out of that move. And right now, it's actually pretty easy to do because there are actually a pretty large number of teams left this week that only have 1 game left. Those teams are the Boston Celtics, the Chicago Bulls, the Dallas Mavericks, the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Phoenix Suns, and the Toronto Raptors. There are 7 teams left that only have 1 game remaining this week. And then on the flip side of that, there are 3 teams that still have 3 games left this week. And on those 3 teams, there are actually a couple of them that have streamable schedule stream level guys. Those 3 teams that still have 3 games left this week are Brooklyn, Charlotte, and the New York Knicks. I don't know why I said New York Knicks. I could have just said Knicks. So the next thing you want to do is you want to look a little bit ahead and see, okay, well, can I long stream these guys in any way? And the answer is kind of, sort of. Brooklyn plays Tuesday, Thursday next week, which isn't great, but it's not a disaster. So if you picked up a net and you wanted to try to hold on to a weekly move until the middle of the end of next week, you could do it because 2 games the first 4 days of next week is very average. It doesn't hurt you all that much. Obviously, you're picking up a player that you're not that thrilled about having, But it's not the end of the world. In the way that with Charlotte, it is the end of the world. You don't want to hold a Charlotte Hornet past Tuesday of next week. They have a game on Tuesday, not Monday, and then they have one game the next 5 days after that. So Charlotte, you could not hold beyond Tuesday, but that would still be a 6-day stream where, with Brooklyn, you could maybe go as far as 8. And then the Knicks, they are similar to Charlotte. Believe it or not, actually worse because they have 3 days off after Tuesday of next week. But these teams are all in the 4-6 bucket if you wanted to go that far. But you don't have to. You could abandon ship after Sunday if you really wanted to. Still, I think I would try to stretch it a little bit longer if you're getting anything at all out of the players that you're picking up. And there are some guys that should hit your radar because Brooklyn is resting a bunch of dudes today, which means that guys like Cam Thomas come into the mix. Lately, Royce O'Neal has been kind of interesting, although I think he's resting in this one. Dorian Finney-Smith has been very much a streamable level guy. I don't like Joe Harris or Seth Curry, but with some guys resting, they become schedule stream level guys. With Charlotte, Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of a schedule stream guy. Nick Richards is a schedule stream guy. With the Knicks, you could make an argument that Quentin Grimes is a schedule stream guy. Isaiah Hartenstein has been kind of a schedule stream guy. So these guys are not going to blow the roof off the building. We're mostly talking about dudes playing between 20 and 25 minutes, with the exception of like a Finney-Smith, or sometimes Grimes gets a little bit above that. But you're just looking, do the math in your head of minutes played, basically, at this point. The guy that you're dropping on one of those 7 teams we talked about needs to be someone outside the top 50. Unless your season is ending at the end of this week. That's a different bird. Obviously, then you abandon ship on anybody who doesn't have a good schedule over the next 4 days. But assuming your season is continuing beyond the end of this week, you do need to be concerned about who you're dropping. But I would argue that, on a team even like Boston, like, you guys are going to kill me for this, but someone like a Malcolm Brogdon, that's droppable. He's been good this year, but he hasn't been nearly good enough to be like, oh, well, this is a guy that I absolutely positively must have on my roster next week when their schedule gets better. Yeah, it would be good. Someone might pick him up in that instance. But, he's number 97. He's averaging 15, 4, and 4 on the year. You think you can't get 15, 4, and 4 from 3 games of one of these other dudes? That means someone needs to average 5, 1.3, and 1.3. That's a garbage level player. You can get that out of any of these dudes over a 3-game span. And presumably you would get quite a bit more. So that's what we're talking about. These guys that are ranked near 100, 3 games versus 1, it's not close. And then the calculus, as you look towards the following week, actually, in my opinion, it might change which slot is becoming your streaming slot. That's why long streaming is so important, because someone you picked up as a long streamer might just become a roster slot you have to sit on for a while. So Boston was just one example. I already said there's 7 teams that only have 1 game the rest of this week. There are a lot of players on those 7 teams that should be kicked to the curb because they are worse than, whatever. Like if your fantasy league goes into next week and you're probably not dropping anybody inside the top 75 on those teams. But outside of that, I think you should strongly consider it. And frankly, anybody on those teams that's outside the top 90 should almost be a must drop at this point, unless your week is like beyond locked up. Because I know someone's going to be like, oh, I got this thing in the bag. It's like, okay, fine. Well, that doesn't apply to you then. This discussion is for teams that are fighting for their playoff lives, or at least in like a mildly competitive matchup, and thinking, okay, like, how cutthroat should I be? How cutthroat should I be the final 4 days of this week? And the answer is basically anyone not inside the top 50 is a candidate to get cut. And if your matchup is remotely close, it's anybody not inside the top 75. If you're in jeopardy of losing, it's, anyone outside the top 50. If you're in a good fight, it's top 75. And frankly, even if you're in like pretty good position, I'd probably still drop anyone outside the top 100 on those teams that have 1 game left the rest of this week. And I would do that until I'm down to 1 move left the rest of the week. Because by tomorrow, by Friday, You're only looking at 3 games left. The best case scenario is a team with 2 games, which is like half the league, has about 2 games left Friday through Sunday. I wouldn't use that move on Friday. To be clear, you're saving it for Saturday. Your last one move, you should probably use up on Saturday to get someone on a back-to-back to close out the week, because 2 games from almost anybody is better than 1 game from almost anyone. It's not quite as severe as the 3 versus 1 we talked about today, but I don't think you should be saving a move till Sunday this week. Because, I mean, I guess Saturday versus Sunday is a similar thing, but if you're saving it till Sunday, you're probably using it to replace someone who's banged up. Also, take a peek at your roster. Saturday is a possible overflow day, so you might get stuck there. You might not need to use a move on that day if you have all of your roster slots full. Saturday still gets my vote if you need an extra game played and you don't have a full roster, but if you do, you push that to Sunday. So today's a day to use up a lot of your moves that you saved throughout the week, because it's a great opportunity to get 2 extra games played per move you make. That's a huge deal. Huge deal. And then the rest will probably save till Saturday or maybe even Sunday, meaning the last one, effectively. And that's how I would stream this week. Tomorrow on the show, because we do wrap up this week tomorrow. We're not doing shows over the weekend. I know it's the playoffs, and you guys probably wish that I did. We don't. Dano, I'm running out of gas, man. Tomorrow, not only are we going to look at the streams you should make for the weekend, but also how that carries you into the beginning of next week. So that's where we really start to pivot back into the long streams, which is 6 days or more, and who you might be able to find, even potentially as early as a Saturday. And everybody that's watching on YouTube can see me kind of highlight things on your board of 5, 6, 7 days, whatever it is. You're looking Saturday through basically the following Saturday or Sunday. Is there anybody that makes sense that you could pick up and just roll with pretty long term? So you're probably looking for someone that's starting with a back-to-back, and then do they have a good schedule to follow that up? No. Most of them, the answer is no. But there are a few teams in there that if you went from like Saturday to Saturday, you could get 5 games in 8 days. That would be a decent stream. There will be some 6-day 4 and 6s that we'll look at. There are plenty of those that start on Saturday. And so that's all in the mix there. YouTubers, hang out with me after the show. We'll do our Q&A over in the chat room. Recorded, folks. We will see you first thing tomorrow. I am Dan Bespris, at Dan Bespris, over on Twitter for Sports Ethos. This is Fantasy NBA Today. Have a great Thursday, everybody. Until the next one. All right, friends. Q&A time here. One more tweet to do because I got to make sure people know that it's Q&A time. Q&A time. You've got 5 minutes to come get your questions in. If anybody shows up. Anybody going to show up for the questions? We'll see. All right, we're going to go to full Dan mode now and scroll all the way up in the chat room, and now I can stop yelling a little bit. Excuse me. We left off at, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was the 6th question. DeLon Wright or Trey Murphy for 10-teamers if Ingram going to be out for extended period of time. I still like DeLon, but the Wizards' schedule gets a little funky next week. Pell's schedule isn't great either. I think I'll go Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday is appealing on that Pell's side. I don't think Ingram's going to be out for an extended period. I guess we'll see. I'm going to lean DeLon Wright on this one. Better short-term value, Tari Eason or Mo Wagner? We'll go Eason on this one, mostly because I want you to be able to hang on for more than 2 to 3 games. And over the next 2 to 3 games, I think their value is going to be relatively equal. So when that's the case, I'll take the guy that I think has the better shelf life. Who on the Nets makes the best stream for tonight's Rest Fest? It's probably Cam Thomas, but he could go back to getting a DNP in the next ball game. So I'll go Dorian Finney-Smith. because at least he goes back to being a low-end schedule stream even after everybody comes back. Which spur would you prioritize for next week when our playoffs start? None, really, because I think they give every single young, interesting player on that team at least one day off on their 4-game week. Maybe not Charles Bassey. He's been playing in the back-to-backs, but you're talking 3 games out of Trey Jones, 3 out of Keldon Johnson, 3 games out of Sohan, 3 games out of Zach Collins. If you're looking at all that, Keldon, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, 3 games are pretty good. You might get 4 out of Devontae Graham. If we're talking Roto, you go Collins over Keldon over Jones, and then everybody else is more of a streamer type. If you're going head-to-head, you probably want... Oh, Vassell is also on the Roto side of that thing. If you're going Roto, or if you're going head-to-head, I think 3 of Vassell, Collins, and Keldon is probably enough to make most weekly lineups. And then beyond that, I would rather go guys that I think are going to play 4, which would be Devontae and then Bassey. And then that's over 3 of Sohan and someone like a Branham. Is it all systems go on Cam Thomas tonight? Yes, for one day, it is most systems go, not all. Punting 3-pointers, which one should I add? Dorian Finney-Smith for 3 games, Vassell for 2, Trey Jones for 2, Sohan Thibault for 2. I think it's the dude playing 3. I think it's Finney-Smith. Well, it's DFS or Vassell. That's my coin flip there. Do I think Vassell can do more in 2 games than Dorian can do in 3? I'm going to go Finney-Smith and just say play the 3 games and hope that that's for the best. Kevin Durant out how long? I don't know. He was out in a walking boot. Sorry, a text wanted to make sure it wasn't a big deal. My guess is a couple of weeks, unfortunately. I don't think he's coming back in their next ball game. Is Poole must roster anymore? Actually, punt free throw makes him a tough guy to argue for, even from earlier in the year. Punt free throw, the answer might be no, because he's one of the best free throw shooters in the NBA. He actually was pretty good from an efficiency standpoint the last time Steph came back. And that kind of jump-started him, although I think the team is annoyed with Poole right now. I almost feel like you should just play him at home games, although maybe that's the case for everybody on the Warriors. Is Xavier Tillman better than Mark Williams now that Steven Adams won't be back for 4 weeks? That was the news this morning. Yes, that's true. Steven Adams is out 4 more weeks. Well, just from a schedule standpoint, the answer is yes, because Memphis has 2 games the rest of this week and then 4 next week. So they got 6 games between today and next Saturday. And Charlotte has only 5 over that span, and 3 of those are the rest of this week. So if you can, roll Mark Williams through the end of this week and then make the switch. If you're talking Roto, they're relatively similar, honestly. And there's just sort of nobody else for Memphis. So, yeah, I'd probably go Tillman because no one's challenging him for minutes. They have not ruled KD out for the rest of the season. There was the fear that it might be, but they have not done the full assessment on his sprained ankle yet. So don't panic yet. It might be the rest of the season, but let's wait and see. Depends on the grade of the ankle sprain. It's a grade 1. He'll be back in 2 weeks. Grade 2, he does probably miss the rest of the regular season. And frankly, might miss the start of the playoffs. Dan, desperate for field goal percent and blocks. Goga or Nerlens? Ah, what a time to be alive. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. Just shoot us all in the face. I'll go Goga. Ugh. No. I don't know, man. Nerlens is going to be battling with Daron Sharp. Goga's going to be battling with Mo Wagner. Nerlens is old. They're testing. They're kind of kicking the wheels, the tires here on Goga. I'm going to go Batadze because I feel like he's going to get 20 minutes. And with Nerlens, I have no idea if he's going to get 20 minutes. He might only get like 11. 3 games of Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, I get a thumbs up on that. Hey, Dan, who's the better 3-game stream if I need field goal percent and rebounds? Quentin Grimes or Isaiah Hartenstein? For those 2 categories, it's Hartenstein. For anything else, it's Grimes. But those 2 categories, that's Isaiah. From the 3 teams with 3 games, Brooklyn, Charlotte, New York, which player will have the better 3 games? Cam Thomas, Nerlens Noel, or Nick Richards? I'm going to go Nick Richards because I think he plays 15 to 20 minutes in all 3, which gives him 45 to 60 minutes. I don't think Nerlens gets anywhere near that high in minutes played because he probably plays like 20 today, maybe, and then he goes back to basically not playing when Claxton probably comes back. We'll see, I guess. And then with Cam Thomas, he probably plays a ton today, but then he was getting DNPs before that. So I just don't want to risk it as these teams get their guys back. Richards is the only one to me that feels like he's almost guaranteed to play in all 3 of his team's games. So that's the way I lean. DeAnthony Melton or James Wiseman, who would you rather drop? I have D'Angelo in the injured list, most likely coming back tomorrow. I would rather drop Wiseman because Jalen Duren's coming back. So Wiseman's about to have his minutes cut by about 20. So drop Wiseman. If indeed Duren's playing, which it seems like he is, Wiseman's not going to be a stream anymore after that. Hey, Dan, in one of my 3 leagues, 10-cat, I have no injured reserve spots. I have a bye week next week. Oh, boy. So your playoffs don't start until the 20th? Yikes. Should I hold Luka and Brunson or drop one of them for D'Angelo Russell? No, hold them. Those guys are better than D'Lo. The fact that D'Lo's on the wire is crazy, though. I might drop one of your healthy players for D'Lo. It's a different monster, though. Is Kevin Durant still worth drafting in the first round in head-to-head leagues from next year onwards because of injury? Yeah, I think so. Because he's one of only 2 or 3 guys in the NBA that can legitimately be the number 1 player. Injury stuff is a pain. Teams need to kind of hold him back a little bit better. But it's hard to argue that the stuff that we saw happen this year was all, old man-itis. Like Jimmy Butler hit him in the side of the knee. That could basically happen to anybody. This ankle thing, I would blame a little bit more on old age. But here's the thing with KD, like, he doesn't have the little nagging injuries. He never misses games for that stuff. That's the stuff you usually put on the old dude. Or like with LeBron, sore everything until something pops. That hasn't been the deal with KD. Nothing's sore on him. He just, someone flexes and it goes out of the way. And here's the beauty part of KD is that he's probably going to fall to the end of the first round next year because people are going to be freaked the bleep out. I will take all the Kevin Durants at like number 11 or 12 if he falls to me there. But if I have to take him in the top 5 or 6, then no, I would pass on that. Are Mo Wagner and I did it again. Mo Wagner. Who's Wagner? Idiot, Dan. Charles Bassey, good streams with only 2 games. I have 4 moves left, need to boost rebounds and field goal percent. Bassey, no. Wagner, yes. I would rather you get somebody who has 3 games left this week, but I get it. Like, Wagner's going to have some good games. Pick 3 in Roto. Out of Collins, DSJ, Trey Murphy, Daniel Gafford. My drop there is Gafford. Trey Murphy's my favorite right now. Then Collins, then Smith, then Gafford. Smith and Gafford are kind of interchangeable, though. Would you drop Christian Wood or Horford to make another streaming slot? Not right now, no. I would have said yes to Wood before Luka went down, but now I think Christian Wood's going to be inside the top 100. Horford's definitely going to be inside the top 100, although we just got word within like the last hour that Robert Williams is going to travel with the Celtics, so they're hoping he'll be back within the next whatever it is. How long is their road trip? Doesn't really matter, I guess. I still think Big Al, he plays well down the stretch. He always does. If Luka comes back quickly, then Wood would be my answer there. Trey Murphy, Mo Wagner, or Josh Okogie in a points league. It's probably Trey Murphy, although I guess we'll see what the Brandon Ingram injury news is. Maybe Wagner's the safest because I think we already know that Wendell Carter Jr. is out for 2 or 3 more games, and we don't yet know on Ingram. If we find out Ingram's going to miss a week, you go Trey there. If Ingram stays day-to-day, you go Wagner. And then you make that call before the games tonight, basically. Do you think Walker Kessler plays tonight? I don't know, man. I wish I knew. I don't have anybody on the inside in Utah. If not, is he a drop? The Jazz, yeah, I mean, head-to-head, probably. If he's not going tonight, you probably got to flex him out for somebody with 3 games this week. And then with Utah, they roll into a 2-game week. Problem, of course, is that one of their 2 games is Monday. So that does make me want to hang on a little bit longer, and he's been a top 50 play, so that falls into the bucket of guys I'd rather hang on to who only have 1 game left the rest of this week. So I think you try to hang on through Monday with him if you can. Although I get it, if he's not playing on Saturday and you need to win your week, then you do what you got to do. How many more questions are there? This is a big one today. Do we pick up Killian Hayes for the next 2 games? Why only 2? If you're picking up Killian Hayes, you're holding him through probably Thursday of next week because Detroit has 5 games in the next 8 days, and that's actually kind of backloaded. They go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday next week. So if you're picking up Killian Hayes, you're holding him for 8 days. So the short answer is yes. Who's the safest streamer? Dorian Finney-Smith on Brooklyn. Is Mark Williams a potential drop in 9-cat Roto with PJ and Richards mucking things up? Yeah, I mean, he's close, but he still played almost 30 minutes in their last ball game. So, no, not yet. For Roto. For head-to-head, we get into the 2-game week, then he's a drop. If my playoffs started next week and I have a spot clinched, should I just be chilling until the weekend to set my team up for next week? Yes, that's correct. With Monte Morris back, would you rather have Xavier Tillman or Delon Wright? I will go Tillman there. I still think Delon's going to be inside the top 90 if he and Monte move back into that timeshare they had before. But yeah, he's going to fall from, he's been rolling top 40 as a 30 whatever minute starter. He'll fall back into that like 23, 24 minute role at some point, but still startable. I like them both, but Tillman's safer. Drop Marcus Smart for Gordon Hayward? Yes. Even with the back-to-back next week, you wouldn't drop Big Al? No, because he'll still get 3 games. It's a 4-game week with a back-to-back. So if it was a 3 that became a 2, I would drop him. But 3 games of Big Al's enough. How about Kyle Anderson and Al Horford? 1 game left for them as well. Again, it's going to come down to whether or not you need the bonus games. But I would say if you need the extra games, you can drop them both. Do you think Dorian Finney-Smith is going to get rested like the others? I feel like we would have heard about it by now, but, maybe it pops up. I'm thinking no. Here's some Suns panic. Can Denver win the West? If not, who? KD will probably be back by a Western Conference Finals, and Phoenix can very much get past a first-round opponent without Kevin Durant. I think they would need him by their second round. So, yeah. By the way, the answer is yes. Denver is really, really good. Clippers could win the West. Lakers could win the West if they get in and get LeBron healthy. Anybody can win the West. Kings could win the West. Seems unlikely because they still aren't guarding anybody. But Sacramento's really fun. Sacramento's getting no respect at all come playoff time, which is to me a little bit dumb because De'Aaron Fox is the best 4th quarter player in the NBA this year. And if you have the guy that hits the shots in crunch time, you're going to win some of these ball games. Anyway, moving along. What hat are you rocking today, Dan? Is that a Visalia Rawhide? Yes, it is. This is the Visalia Rawhide. That's their alternate, I think. Got some goodies from them. One of my good buddies is still the GM up there. Any of you who live in the Central Valley and you want to go to a minor league game, let me know. My buddy Mike is the GM of the Rawhide. Would you drop Al Horford to stream another player? Only 1 game left this week. All categories are close. If you're close this week, then yes, turn 1 game into 3. Is Jokic better than Embiid? Yes or no, and why? Well, it depends. I mean, it's hard to answer this question because what Jokic does for his team is very different. Embiid is a far superior defender than Jokic. I don't think anybody would argue that. Jokic, I think, is the better offensive player simply because Jokic makes the 4 players around him infinitely better. Embiid might make the guys around him a little bit better, having him out there makes them better just by having his gravity. But what Jokic does on offense is simply unmatched in the NBA right now. And it's why he's won 2 MVPs, and he might win another one. So I'm going to say yes, mostly because I don't think I've ever seen anyone do on offense what Jokic does on offense. Embiid is otherworldly. Shaq, the Dream, these are the other centers that had his combination of size and quickness. And his defense is good, but he's nowhere near the offensive initiator that Jokic is. So I'll give this slight nod to Jokic, but it's pretty cool that we've got 2 centers. And then Giannis, if you want to throw him in there, he plays some center. They're big-ish. Big men and big-ish are probably your 3 best players in the NBA right now. KD should probably be in there if dude could stay upright. With Monte Morris back and the Hornets playing 2 times next week, would you drop DeLon Wright or Mark Williams? What? For Xavier Tillman. DeLon Wright is... Oh, because of the Monte Morris. I get it. And the Wizards have a 3-game week. I would, yes, drop Mark Williams for Tillman when it comes around to next week. How do you see Boston's chances to win it all? Can they beat a healthy Milwaukee team? No, I don't believe they can. Durant is out for the season, I heard. I thought he got ruled back in today. He came off the injury report. Did I miss something? Anybody else? You guys can correct me if I whiffed on that one, but I'm fairly certain that they said Durant was off the injury report today. So I'm expecting him to play. I think it was Bogdanovic, Gato, that you might have heard that was out for Detroit. Just tuned in. Is Okogie a must roster next 2 weeks? Yeah, probably. Is John Collins' 2-game surge lucky or for real? I think that Quinn Snyder was making him earn his minutes. Really. Just saying, like, look, dude, if you're going to pout out there, we're going to play Sadiq Bey more. So go play your butt off. And I think Collins is responding to that. So I think it's real, but I don't know that I would call it a surge. I feel like it's been like a little better. Yeah, Durant is probable. Thank you, Team Crop Dusters. That's what I thought I saw too. 2 streaming spots only open for Sunday as my streamer spot play until Saturday. Any suggested pickup that I can make for Sunday? Oh, we're looking all around here. I would start on Sunday, and then I would try to look towards the full length of next week. So Denver has 5 games over that span. The Lakers have 5 days between Sunday and the end of next week. And the Spurs have 5 games between Sunday and the end of next week. So those are the teams I would look at if you want to stretch it until late next week. Those are the teams you're looking at. I have playoffs starting next week. Should I drop Bojan Bogdanovic? Probably. Yeah. You can give him another 2 days if you want, but he's probably going to get shut down. Herb Jones or Dante DiVincenzo for points league through next week. Pels have 3 games next week and 2 more this week. So they got 5 between now and the end of next week. And the Warriors have 6. I'll go Dante for the extra game. But if Andrew Wiggins shows up, that does kind of screw this thing, doesn't it? You know what? I'll go 5 of Herb. Even though he's got fewer ball games. Should I add a Kogi, Kyle Anderson, or Nas for week 21 and possibly week 22? I'm set for this week. Not Nas, I don't think. Kyle Anderson in a 4-game week next week is very much a yes. Phoenix in a 4-game week. 3 of them early in the week. I think with Phoenix, you might move on after Okogie's Thursday game because then he's only got 1 over 5 days after that. But Slow-Mo is a big yes for next week. Yeah, Devin Booker's got the weird cloud over him right now. Is Terrence Ross a good ad? No, he got hot for a game. Hamidou Diallo is out for the season. Yeah, that's probably who you were thinking of, Gato. Oh, that's also possible. Durant. Yeah, it hasn't been ruled out yet, guys. There was a rumor that they are concerned he might miss the rest of the regular season. We do not have an official report yet. It might still happen, but we don't have an official report yet. He's in a walking boot, so it's going to be weeks, but is it going to be 2 or 4 is basically what that comes down to. Yeah, but Durant hasn't been ruled out either. It's correct. Favorite Aussie. I thought you were going to pick players in the NBA. I am not answering that question. picking between two fantasy analysts. Get out of here. I'm trying to start a fight. Brian. My favorite Aussie in the NBA has got to be Josh Giddey, though. Dude's sick. And as Dan takes his final sip at the hour 20 mark, we bid you all adieu. Like and subscribe on your way out, people. I forgot to yell at you during the question and answer part of the show. Like and subscribe on your way out. Tomorrow, we'll recap Thursday, and we will long stream. We're going to talk long streaming rolling all the way into the beginning of next week as we wrap up week 1 of our split show recap streaming, whatever. Good listenership today. This was fun. Like and subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. Later, everybody.